We believe this is one of the most important files that the European Parliament is considering, because without the treaties, there would be no EU institutions to regulate the common market. At the same time, it would also mean that there would be no unnecessary regulation, harmonization, flags, anthems, and top-down bureaucratic commands, which make citizens and businesses so very nervous. And this file gives us the chance to correct some wrongs. The current procedure of treaty change, however, mostly led by Euro-federalists in this parliament, is happening in a rather shadowy way, without ample time for preparation and consultation with a wide range of experts. I imagine after this procedure is concluded, there will be a press release to indicate how tidy everything has been to cover up the arbitrary nature of amendments to the treaties that the European Parliament once introduced. Let me remind you, the member states created and still shape the EU, not the other way around. The primary criticism of the existing treaties from the perspective of the FEM Committee is that progress in eliminating inequalities and promoting true gender equality is too slow. The situation remains uneven across the EU. Progress has slowed, stalled, and even regressed in some areas. This could be. But what does the EU have to do with this? Let me put it clearly. I am in favor of creating as much equal opportunities for every individual. And if half the population feels as if they are being constantly discriminated against, this should be addressed, as we do this in this very committee, and we even have a Gender Equality Week. The Netherlands, according to the European Institution for Gender Equality, ranks higher than the EU average in terms of gender equality. I would like to stress that gender equality and flexible gender roles are inherent to Dutch culture. In other words, we don't have to thank the EU to ensure that Dutch men and women are more equal than in other EU countries. I have said it before, and I will say it again. Legislating for equality is ineffective. Soon enough, you realize that you achieve the opposite effect of what you wanted in the first place. In this case, legislating for equality will lead to more inequality across the EU. At the risk of being controversial here, men and women are different. The Dutch know this, the Spanish know this, the Finnish know this, the Bulgarians, everybody knows it. All of these countries are different too, and their expression of gender norms manifests itself in different ways, based on generations of traditions, actual lived experiences, and culture. As an international organization, because that's what the EU is, not a country, not a state, but an international organization, the EU must respect and defend these differences. Without unique cultural expressions, there would be no diversity to unite us. Ignoring the differences between women and men can only be achieved by ignoring recent unprecedented events. The war in Ukraine, which is devastating to Ukrainian women in a particular way, is affecting all our lives in Europe too. As this committee has discussed many times, COVID affected all of our lives, and women in particular. The gender and pension gap, the poverty gap, the extra burden of care, the violence committed against women, and all of the myriad of challenges faced by women that this committee discusses cannot be legislated on an EU level. For true gender equality, we have to embrace these challenges and sudden setbacks as women and men and work together to address them with dignity and respect. Women are capable of great feats. They manage to run families and communities, the backbones of society, in the hardest of times. It is not the EU's task. It is not the EU's task to take care of this. We need to do it together, but within the mandate of our member states. Thank you so much.
Děkuji za vaše
Thank you. If things worked in the EU, that is 50-50, we wouldn't need to deal with this, I believe. And I guess that legislation is necessary in this regard, and maybe if you were on the other side, your position would be different.